Biggest, huge, important. The only problem is not everyone's happy about the deal. France's Prime Minister is calling it a dark day for Europe. The Belgian Prime Minister said it was a moment of relief but not celebration. And the chair of the European Parliament's Trade Committee said the deal has concessions that are difficult to accept. All told, many are still happy the continent avoided 30% tariffs that Mr. Trump had threatened, including the owner of a vineyard I spoke to in Bordeaux about a week ago.
I am very, very worried. It could be a total disaster because nobody would accept taxes at 30% more. Yesterday, I was with an American man who owns 50 wine shops in New Jersey, and he told me for him also it would be a disaster.
Now, that was before we knew what it was going to be. Some business groups are cautiously optimistic. There's Fredrik Persson, of the President of Business Europe. He joins me now from Brussels. Good to see you, sir. All right, 15% gives you certainty. That much I accept. But is it a number that's going to hurt European business?
Thank you, Richard. It is a number that will hurt both the US and the EU economy. But what would have hurt the economies even harder would have been a full-out trade war. And I think that is what we've avoided. But I think we need to be clear with that we are in a far worse position than we were a year ago and where we were ahead of April 2nd.
So is really, am I being cynical when I just simply say, you know, the old joke, it's just a question of the price? That was always what this was going to be. It was just a question of, from the Europeans, how low, from the Americans, how high.
I think it's also about the way you look at trade. So I think, of course, 15 is better than 30. 15 is worse than 10. But then again, what would have been even better is that we would have taken away all tariffs. And I think that would have boosted the US economy, and that would have boosted the European economy. The challenge for Europe and for my members, we have 25 million companies as members, is the lack of growth in Europe. If you look back the last 20 years, the US economy has grown by 60% and Europe by only 30%. That is a huge challenge, and that is a gap we need to close.
Okay, so with this, do you believe the 15%, and I recognize this is how long is a piece of string and different industries will do it different ways, but who do you think is going to eat most of the 15%?
Richard, you talked about pies, I think, in another episode earlier this week, if it was last week. I mean, is this the pecan pie? Honestly, it feels a bit more like a shepherd's pie. But we need to keep in mind it's a framework. We're talking about 3 to 4 pages. A free trade agreement is normally 3,000 to 4,000 pages. So a lot of things needs to be ironed out before we actually see the color of this pie or this deal.
You see, the problem with that, sir, is, if you will, you've got half the pie, you've got the crust, you've got the 15% bit, because that happens immediately. It's the other bit, it's the, you know, it's the 750 billion of energy. Well, who's buying that from whom and how is it funded? Yep. It's the 600 billion of inward investment and military purchases. How much of that was already go? Do you have any to use this horrible phrase, do you have any visibility on those issues?
I would pull it back one step and say it's not even the crust yet. I think we've just been handed the shopping list to go to the store, the 3 to 4 pages. So, I mean, we have so little information yet. I hear the numbers you're calling out, and they're also being called out by the White House and the Commission. We have no clarity whatsoever what's behind those numbers. So we just need to dig into that and get further information.
Right. I was interested in some of the commentary I read overnight, which basically said the Europeans caved. The view seems to be Europe gave in on all concessions, and perhaps for understandable reasons. 15% is better than 20, better than 30. Do you now see this as a capitulation to US demands?
I think both 15%, 10%, or even, God forbid, 20% is much better than a full-out trade war. That would have hurt the European economy enormously. So I think that is the big win we're seeing here.
Right.
Then, of course, I would have been happier if it would have been at 10%, but I think this is the price we needed to pay not to end up in a full-scale trade war.
I promise you, sir, next time I'm in Brussels, I will buy the pie. You just have to choose the flavour. Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight from Brussels.